Forgiving our past. Why? How is that at all important when it comes to relationships? How is that at all important in the masculine journey? Forgiving the past can be applied to almost every category of our lives. It is certainly a huge aspect of relationships. It is certainly a huge aspect of masculinity. This goes far deep into our childhood, our relationships with our parents, our relationships in previous relationships with other lovers. Every time a relationship ends, we walk away from it with a certain amount of experiences, some of which are lovely, but unfortunately the way our brain works, we're only going to remember the negative ones. That's just the way it is. So our brain is focused on these miserable experiences, potentially the most recent experiences, which makes them even easier to remember because you just went through a breakup of some sort, right? So the negative experience of that breakup is overpowering the pleasant experience that you had with that same person maybe 9.5 months earlier or 1.5 years earlier. How do we process that negative experience? How do we process that bitter memory? And how does that affect the next encounters, the next interactions, the next dates, and the next relationships, right? The sad thing is, most of us don't process that at all. Not to say it's good or bad, but we just don't process that at all. We take experiences and we carry those on into future relationships. We learn lessons. Now, learning lessons is an important part of life, but when it comes to those lessons now inducing a certain amount of fear to make us hesitate in order to be open, be vulnerable again to another human being, then we're in trouble. Because a true relationship at its core is the art of human vulnerability. If you're capable of being truly vulnerable, then you have yourself a potential relationship, assuming and hoping that your partner, the other person on the other side, is also open to that. Otherwise, it would be a rough time for you. But to recognize that as you go through these breakups, it might become harder and harder for you to find yourself in a comfortable place to express that vulnerability in front of another human being, because you're carrying on a baggage of trauma, a baggage of negative experiences. And those are the lessons from the past. Forgive the past. Learn from it, and then forgive it. Unlearn from it, and then forgive it. There's no way we can be in this moment by itself, let alone plan anything for a future, if we're stuck somewhere in the back of our brains thinking about something that happened yesterday. The moment we lose our absolute presence, we lose this existence. We lose today. We lose the day. We lose ourselves. We lose our mental health. We gain stress. So, not just gaining relationships or finding the right partner for yourself or the right environment to work, but just to be alive, just to actually live, just to breathe, enjoy a delicious dinner, have interactions throughout the day. Man, you gotta be here. You just have to be here. You have to actually be in this day. How do you get there? How do you get to the absolute present moment? Some of us have a tendency towards depression. Some of us have a tendency, we struggle with a brain that has a tendency to think too much of the past. Thinking of the past may be an okay thing for some of us. Maybe it's a moment to appreciate the journey you've been on. But the moment you get lost in these thoughts, the moment you get lost in these what ifs and the whys, what if this hadn't happened that way? What if I was born elsewhere? What if other opportunities had come my way? The moment you start asking these questions, you're gone. You're no longer here. You're wasting this gift of life you've been given. Get rid of that. One of my favorite techniques has been to avoid looking at photographs, because there's nothing for me to look at. I do not need to see the past. Understand? Looking at the past is not something that serves me. I make a video for you and it's out there. There's no need for me to go back and look at it. If it grabs my attention, I might listen to see what in the world was I talking about. But there's nothing for me to view. How good did my skin look when I was younger? If I had any hair left? None of that. The moment I go into that thought, allow that door to open, that thought frame to start to find its momentum, I'm gone. I'm no longer here. I'm no longer living. I have become a sort of a reviewing machine of the memories I've accumulated. There's beauty into tapping into your animalistic side. A hunter, one who understands how to get after life, understands that life today drives from the fact that I'm hungry and I need to do something about that. And as I'm experiencing this hunger, there's no need for me to think about how beautiful or how sad yesterday was. And as I fill my belly with some delicious food, there's no need for me to then compare that to anything I had a year and a half ago, right? I can be content with that meal, with that delicious meal, and I can just rest. To tell a human being to become an animal is not the advice that I look forward to giving to anyone, really. But if we can tap into that, because it is innate in us, right? It's essentially where we all came from, however way you look at this history. Tap into that animalistic, primal way of life, which then allows you to just be here and experience this life as it unfolds. Life around me is a movie. I have no idea how it's going to play. The moment I step out of my house, I have to remind myself of that today's a new day. Anything can happen today. Anything and everything can happen today. None of it is guaranteed. Not the pleasure, not the pain. None of it is guaranteed. Not the disasters, not the accidents, not the success, not all the times where everything worked in my favor. Allow yourself to forgive. Allow yourself to let go. You cannot let go without forgiveness. You cannot forgive without letting go. Those things are tied. and they are looping, my friends. They need to be polished. The same way you don't wash a car for once and then it will stay clean for the rest of its lifespan. You will need to polish this experience, this memory that haunts you constantly. And it is well worth it, because without it, there is no today and there is no tomorrow. Much love.